All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to go over today the newest modifications to the Indiana Association of Realtors standardized forms. You should have all gotten an email from IAR. If you're a member of MyBOR, I know that MyBOR sent out an email. Both of the emails have a copy of this PowerPoint presentation available to you. We're going to go quickly through it and mention the forms that have changed. The list of the forms that have changed is here, and there are also two new forms that have been added that I will talk with you about. Several of the changes are just bolding language or moving it to a different position in the document. There's nothing new that you need to learn. It's just for clarity and ease. I'll mention those when there is a change that is something more than bolding or moving. I will take a moment to talk about that. The first change in the purchase agreement is a bolding and moving. They've just taken stuff and put it in a different position. The second change in the purchase agreement is the same thing. They've taken your three tax options and put those together. The third change is actually minor, but it's technically significant. In the list of all of the things that stay in the property in the purchase agreement, they've removed gas grills. They figured because it's if it's a built-in gas grill, everyone's going to think it's a fixture, and if it's just a propane, they're not. But they've taken those two terms out, or those two words out. Frankly, the next change to me isn't really significant, but it's just trying to keep up with the times. They're telling you and your buyer, make sure if you want that Ring doorbell, or if you want any other smart options that are in the house, that you ask for those in the purchase agreement. To me, it's just like you want to ask for everything you want anyway, but they have specifically updated it for smart items like a doorbell or a thermostat. There's been an issue in the past. When does the buyer's lender order the appraisal? The most recent change in this paragraph said that the buyer authorizes the lender to order the appraisal immediately. Now they've changed it to directs them to order it immediately. It still doesn't fix the problem. The problem is buyers don't want to pay for an appraisal until they've figured out the inspections, and sellers don't want to agree to pay for inspections until they know what the appraisal is going to say. There still needs to be a change that says the appraisal will be completed by a certain date, because again, the lender could be directed, could order the appraisal for June 32nd. So just make sure that that word has changed, but it really doesn't fix the problem. This one shouldn't be much of an issue. Just your seller is going to remove all of their debris and personal property when they move out. They've bolded it. So it's always been there. Now they've made it bold. They took the language about a survey showing flood zone designations out of the purchase agreement because most surveys no longer have that information in them. The next change, this paragraph used to say that the buyer can back out of the transaction, they can terminate the contract is what it actually says, if the property is in a floodplain or they can't use it the way they want to. This change actually is a nice clarification. They've broken those two options into two separate paragraphs, and then on the building use limitations, they have added language that says you can't just keep holding on and keep holding on and keep holding on, and if the seller doesn't do what you want, then tell them you're going to back out because of the use issue. Now you have to describe how long you have to make that determination whether to move forward or not. I like this change. Next form is a bolding. Again, doesn't change anything, just makes it bigger and darker. Again, another bolding talks about they've moved this sentence down just above the signature block and made it bold. But again, no change actually to the document. The next change deals with the listing contract, and just like the purchase agreement, when you say you're going to offer $300,000 and you put that in numbers and words, that wasn't that way in the listing agreement. They've changed that just to make sure we're clear. This next change is going to cause some problems. It flat out is. What it says is that the seller has to remove all debris and personal property not included in the sale. That's fine. The next sentence is where we get in trouble. Any existing improvements and fixtures permanently installed and affixed, which the seller does not want included in the sale, shall be removed by seller prior to the effective date of this listing and replaced with an appropriate substitute if applicable. Okay, how many of you who have a seller is going to tell them, or are going to tell them, yeah, you have to remove your water softener, you have to remove all of your built-in theater equipment, you have to remove your Goalrilla basketball goal before we can even put your house on the market if you don't want to leave those things. That's not going to work. I understand the theory behind the desire for the change, but I guarantee you, anyone who has a seller that is your client, they're going to fight this. So just be ready for that fight. This change was made in several documents. In this case, it's the first right. In one paragraph in the first right, whether it's the standard or the drop dead, it says that all time frames start when the removal of the contingency occurs. And then in another paragraph, it says, if we don't move forward, the seller shall return the earnest money to the buyer. Well, if all time frames were suspended, you never would have given the earnest money up front. The next paragraph assumes that you did. This change, again, happens in several documents, and from now on, all of the things wait until the contingency is removed, except up front, you will still have to give your earnest money to the listing broker or to the seller or the escrow agent. This next provision in the removal of contingency is new. The red language is new, but it really just adds some clarity why they are removing the contingency. We've accepted it. We've accepted an offer. We haven't, but we want to remove it anyway, or there's another reason. It's extra language, but it's a good change. It clarifies and makes sure people know what's going on. In the removal of contingency form, again, the earnest money is clarified about when it has to be provided. In the buyer exclusive agency agreement, they've added a paragraph saying, hey, buyers, sellers are recording you now. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you do. And by the way, none of the brokers are responsible if you get videoed and you don't like it. So it protects us as brokers, but it also warns your buyers that they may well be being recorded. Backup offers, just like the removal of contingency, upon acceptance of a backup offer, that buyer number 2 must still provide earnest money up front based on the new language in the form. I love this one. I've actually seen it happen where the listing broker gets a phone call, hey, I'm sending over offer number 2. Listing broker and seller have a counter offer out to the buyer, potential buyer. Listing broker calls buyer agent and says, hey, we're getting another offer, or we've gotten another offer. I'm going to send you a multiple offer notification. And before anyone can blink 3 times, the buyers sign that outstanding counter offer and eliminate the multiple offer situation, really potentially damaging the seller and the listing broker. Now, any outstanding counteroffer by seller is hereby withdrawn, has been put in the multiple offer notification, so that bad scenario no longer can happen. I love this for listing agents, especially in a hot seller market. In the FSBO Builder document, technically, if you leave it unchanged, the seller is not being represented. But now we, as the agent bringing the buyer, will be responsible for the earnest money. We don't give it to the seller. We don't give it to anybody else, just by the pre-printed language in the form.